Rev up your engines!
Now, some people are forecasting that hybrid Jeeps and battery-powered Jeep will make the quickest, in quotes, most capable Jeep ever. Well, Scotty's going to try to see if this makes any sense. A hybrid Jeep? I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Jeeps have histories of electronic problems for decades. If you're going to have a car that now got a regular gasoline engine and a battery-powered motor, the level of complexity of that is sky high. They can't even make regular cars with normal electrical systems correctly that don't break down and have problems. Combine those two, I foresee nothing but problems with that. They claim that they're going to make electric Jeep that's all electric, not a hybrid, but 100% electric, and they're going to call it the Adventure Off-Roader. If they're making an entirely electric vehicle, they're going to be bypassing all the transmission problems Jeep have, four-stroke engine problems that they've had in the recent past. Who knows? They haven't built an all-electric vehicle yet. If they do get one out there, maybe it will be different. They start with a different platform. If it's all electric, could bypass a lot of problems. And of course, what's the thing? Jeeps want to go off-road. What do you need? Torque to go off-road, right? Torque to get through the mud, climb over the rocks. Well, electric motors have torque up the wazoo. There's no arguing that. They certainly do. So that's one thing. But the other thing is the guys that are always fording through streams and going in deep water with the Jeeps, not a smart idea to do that in an electric vehicle. They can seal some stuff, but they can't seal the whole thing, and that would be a disaster to put an electric vehicle with 200 to 400 volts in the water, underwater. So that's going to kind of change the people's ideas of what they're going to do with their Jeeps, too. Realize that. Well, it's now official. The 2020 Paris Motor Show is partially canceled due to the virus. Now, it wasn't supposed to start until October 1st. But, I mean, what would be the point of having an auto show where there's a bunch of cars if nobody can all come and congregate and look at the cars? It is a show after all, and it's there to be shown off to people. And if there's no people there, there's no point. But they are saying that so far they have a thing called Moving on Smart City and other off-site events still going to happen where it's business-to-business communication, where business people talking about it, not a whole crowd of regular people coming and looking at an auto show. Well, to me, what's the point? An auto show is to show it to the public. They can have business meetings anywhere. There's no point in having the whole thing of a motor show is to show off the cars to the public who are going to buy them. So kind of silly that they keep that part and then not have the main part of the show. I mean, who knows what's going to happen as time goes on, but I guess they just didn't want to admit that they totally canceled it, so they put that little caveat on the bottom that, oh, well, we'll still have business-to-business meetings. Only the French would do something like that. Bob the Hat King says, how often should the automatic transmission fluid be changed in a 2012 Camry? I know it shouldn't be changed if it's never been changed. The mileage is high, but my sister has one with 35,000 miles. We want to know what should change it. I'm assuming it's got a normal transmission, not a CVT transmission. That's a good idea to change it every 60, 80,000 miles anyway. It's a no-brainer on those. You just drain out what comes out and then pump back in the same amount. It's not that hard to do. I have a video. I actually do it on a car, and you can see you can do it yourself. The only thing you need is one special tool and then a pump to pump the new fluid back in. Take off the cap with a special tool. Out comes like 2 3/4 quarts. You measure what comes out, and you pump the same thing back in. It's very easy to do. Anybody can do it themselves, and any mechanic can do it for you. Don't go to the dealer where they're going to charge you $300, $400, $500 to do something that is going to cost you $25 in materials to do, and maybe a $12 tool. Learn how to do it yourself. That's what I'm here, to help people out so they can save money and do it right. Then you know it's done right because you saw yourself do it. I've had customers pay for transmission fluid changes at garages that never did the work. And then years later, the transmission goes out, and I check them and say, it's never been changed. And they'll say, we paid for 3 changes. I said, well, did you see it? They said, no. I said, well, they ripped you off, and they didn't do anything. Eric Garcia 101-712 says, Scotty, does 2013 Toyota Sequoia with 83,000 miles a good option to buy, and how much do you think it will last? It's a 2013 Limited. All right, they're very good vehicles. They're gigantic vehicles. They have big V8 engines. They are tremendous gas hogs in town. On the highway, they're reasonable for something that big. But in the city, I got customers with them, and they're getting, 8, 9, 10 miles a gallon if they drive them hard. They are gas hogs. Realize that. I had a customer just buy one that had 160,000 miles on it for only $5,000. And I personally would be leery about that kind of mileage, but the guy brought it to me and I checked it out. I told him it was in perfect shape. It was in excellent shape. So, who knows? If it was taken care of, they can last a long time. It's just they're kind of gas hoggy. And when you do look at a vehicle like that, you have to have a guy like me check it out, a professional mechanic who knows the stuff, who can go through it all. Because if they see, hey, there's a problem here, don't buy it. But if they say, hey, it's a good one, you see the lowest price you can get it for, and go for it if you want a vehicle that big. Then with the price of gas going down, oil was under $20 a barrel the other day. Hey, you're not going to care that much about the price of gas for a while. Bo55 says, my brakes squeak loud only when I'm in reverse. Take off the rear wheels. Check the brake pads or shoes, whatever you have on your vehicle. Generally, if they only do it going backwards, it means that they're worn or the rotors that they squeeze are worn, and you're going backwards, you're going the opposite direction. So if there's any wear, it'll often make the squeaking noise because normally it's spinning this way, and when it goes the other way, little metal fragments are going opposite direction. They'll often make a squeaking noise. Now, if you pull them off and you see they're thin, that means they're wearing out, and they often make noise only going backwards when they start to wear out and the squealers are worn and they start making that squeaking noise. So you always want to check that. Now, let's say you look at them and they're perfectly thick and the rotors are shiny, but they're not cracked or anything. You could just live with it. It doesn't hurt anything. A lot of brakes squeak first thing in the morning because we live in Earth where there's a lot of oxygen in the air and water vapor, and what that does is that rusts the steel rotors, and when you back up, that wipes the rust off that occurred overnight. So a lot of cars will do it the first time, and backing up, no big deal. Frugal Father says, I got an '09 Saturn Vue XR with 34,000 miles on it. It's in storage 300 days a year. Any suggestions what I should do when I put it in storage? I currently cover it, install a trickle charger, and park it on half-inch plywood. Make sure the gas tank is full so there's no air inside it to make it degrade faster. It will degrade less quickly. The only problem you're really going to have with that thing is modern gasoline is a mix of a bunch of more blends than it used to be when I was young. And generally, they tell you the safe time is about 6 months, and it start degrading it. When you do take it out of storage, you want to run as much of that gas out as possible and then fill it up. And every time you put it in storage, fill it up with fresh gas so you have a better chance of it not causing any problems. Because the gasoline isn't made to sit that long anymore. It's a blend of all kinds of stuff. And it's got 10% ethanol. And ethanol can evaporate and stuff. Realize your car isn't sealed. They claim, oh, you got the evap system that seals, blah, blah, blah. If it just sits, it's going to evaporate. I've seen cars sitting for a year, and they'll lose 3/4 of a tank of gas just from evaporation. So that's the main thing you have to worry about is the fuel. Battery technology marches on. Now, several companies have lithium-ion batteries that can be recharged in 5 minutes. Yeah, just 5 minutes. But of course, getting them into cars. Now they're race cars. Instead of Formula One, it's called Formula E. And they have rules where they now have batteries, super fast racing batteries, that can recharge in 10 minutes. Now, of course, they're not going to be there for the whole 10 minutes. They're going to plug it in for a short period of time to get back into the race. Otherwise, the race would be too slow. Now, the fastest actual one that's out there is Porsche has 250 kilowatt public charging stations that can recharge the Porsche fully in about 40 minutes. But 40 minutes is still 40 minutes. It's a long period of time to recharge it. And they're going to have a zillion of these public ones if it's going to be popular. If you think about it, there are millions of people that live in apartments and places where they have no access to private charging. They can't put in their own one, so it's going to have to be a public thing. And as I say, there's going to need an infrastructure a lot bigger than what it is, and they're really going to have to go a lot faster. Now, the Porsche ones, 40 minutes is still 40 minutes. Now, the race cars, 10 minutes, but those are race cars. If you ever price the stuff that race car use, it's unbelievable. I remember a few years back, I met the Mercedes-Benz crew in the Formula One races, and they raced 2 cars that year, and it cost them total cost of racing those 2 cars, $500 million. So money's no object to them, but it is to us. So it's going to be a while till these electric cars get normal. Rabbit Amoeba says, Scotty, my 2012 Camry XLE Hybrid uses a dreaded replaceable paper oil filter inside one of those dumb canisters. The original filter is pretty poor, but it appears that Toyota Racing Development doesn't make a filter for my car. AMSOL Box, which AC Delco make them all to be suitable replacement. What's the best filter for that? I go with the Bosch on that. The good ones are made out of synthetic material. I just did one the other day. The guy bought the filter, and I looked at it. Sure enough, it said high quality replacement filter, and I looked at it. It was high quality. And the Bosch makes pretty good ones. I've had no problems with the Bosch filters whatsoever. Always buy the high-end ones, though. If you get a choice, you don't go to like AutoZone or someplace and buy the $2.99 filters. They're the cheapest ones. Buy the ones that cost a bit more, that say they're the high mileage ones. They're made better, they'll last longer, and they'll filter better.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.